You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter, a forum for entrepreneurs, professionals, and business students to come learn, get motivated, share experiences, and discuss how to grow our business and the business community as a whole. I am Ryan Carpenter, your humbled host and moderator for these discussions. And first off, I would like to thank everyone for joining us for our second show. The amount of support that we got last week in our first week was absolutely amazing. I cannot thank people enough for the amount of kind words and also for the listens. So we really appreciate that, and hopefully moving forward we will continue to provide you with this great content. So thanks again for everything. Last week's show, if you are joining us for the first time or were unable to catch the whole interview with Lori Lonsdorf with the Small Business Development Center, we have posted it to both our YouTube channel as well as LCC's SoundCloud page. You can go basically onto YouTube and search for The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter, and it should pop right up for you. You can find a link on both our Facebook page and Twitter as well. So if you're already following us or liked our page, you can find it there. If not, you can find our Facebook page at facebook.com/businessplanradio, and our Twitter is at BizPlanRadio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. I want to give everyone a heads up. We're going to be continuing to pre-record these shows through the end of the year, as schedules tend to be a little bit tight over the holiday season. So I want to make sure that I let you guys know that, and also let you know that I will keep you posted as to when we are going to be moving into the live format. We would still love to answer any questions that you may have and interact with you. So if you have any suggestions for guests or topics that you'd like for us to cover moving forward, please either tweet us or send us a message. You can also reach us via email, and that's probably the best way if you'd like to get scheduled as a guest on our program. You can email us there at businessplanradio@gmail.com. That's businessplanradio@gmail.com. Today's show or topic is an issue that I feel extremely strongly about. One that I think is going to exponentially impact business and the path people take after high school. Our guest is a former classmate of mine, Luke Schrauben, who is a former business owner, business teacher, and current head JV basketball coach at Grand Ledge. He's going to be on. He also has a new role as the career development coordinator with Eaton Risa. Youth entrepreneurship is something that I am extremely passionate about. I believe I talked about this last week, but my biggest regret in life, other than taking out private student loans, was that I did not get my business started earlier on. Not that I'm old or that I feel like my time's running out or anything like that, but mainly because it would have really allowed me to better absorb the information that was being presented to me in my collegiate studies. The lack of responsibilities during that time period also would have allowed me to have a buffer to really fine-tune my idea and work out the kinks and create a well-oiled machine and have a business set up for myself upon graduation. I was reading an article written by Amy Rosen in Forbes magazine the other day entitled "The Entrepreneurship Answer to Youth Unemployment." And I absolutely love a quote that she had in there because I think it fits perfectly with what today's topic is. She said, "While we're teaching people to be better employees, we should also invest in teaching them the mindset coupled with the skills to be innovators and entrepreneurs. Developing the ability to recognize opportunity and giving young people the tools to capitalize on those opportunities empowers them to take ownership of their future in ways that directly links education to real-world success." She also quoted some pretty interesting statistics that were compiled during a survey that was done with the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship program graduates, the NFTE. that I thought you would also enjoy, and also to show the importance of the impact that youth entrepreneurship really has. According to the survey, there was a 57 to 78% graduation rate in the 10 largest cities that offer this NFTE program. Of the students that actually went through the NFTE program, though, 89% of those graduated. So that's an 11 to 32% bump based on the school's averages. And they also reported 50% earnings above the national average. So obviously, it's very important to start getting engaged with this at an early age. Sadly, though, the younger generation and much of the millennial generation have had to go over the past few years and are currently facing a job market unlike most of the generations before them had ever seen. I myself graduated into the slide of a recession, where the unemployment rates each year were hitting highs not seen since 1982, and then 1940 before that. That's right, that's the Great Depression. And that was actually the only year in which there were consecutive years with unemployment rates as high or higher than what we currently, or well, not currently, but what we had to go through over the past few years. So companies were closed, businesses tightened up operations and laid off millions of people. And while that was happening, millions of new workers were entering the workforce after graduating from high schools and colleges across the country. Most of us can remember our first job. Typically, it's one that we had when we were younger, and whether it was cutting grass and shoveling snow, or maybe even a paper route. And yes, those did exist at one time. For other people, maybe they didn't get their first job until they had gotten their license and were waiting tables or bussing tables to pay for that freedom that we now had, known as gasoline. But over the past few years, these age groups simply have not been getting the same type of work experience that we once had. They too were trying to find jobs when a person with 15 years of experience had just been laid off and now was working at that same restaurant to try and feed their children and keep their homes from going into foreclosure. A lot of times it's easy to look at younger generations and think of them just as lazy, or that they just don't get it. But we have to realize that we were there once too. And frankly, they too have been negatively affected by the economy, just as everyone has. I think of my sister's generation, who had siblings 7 to 10 years older than them. They got to see their brothers and sisters graduate with big open houses into a flourishing economy. They remember big Christmases when they were kids, and their parents getting new houses and moving into or getting new cars. But then it was time for them to graduate, and everything had already taken a nosedive that we're still dealing with today. When they graduated, a lot of their friends lost homes. A lot of their friends had moved away because their parents had to relocate for a job. Some kids' parents were working extra jobs, and some were not working at all. It was a tough time to grow up in, but they had technology to fill a lot of those voids. And that technology that sometimes people consider them lazy for being glued to could end up being their savior. As I mentioned before, a lot of these kids just really haven't had the same type of relevant work experience as the generations before them. So as the economy gets better and as the job market gets more stable, which we've been fortunate enough it's starting to go in that direction, but they're still going to have a hard time. More and more, you're starting to see programs that focus on the youth portion of business, trying to give them an edge that right now they could really use. My guest today is doing just that. And the 5-minute Tops competition is a youth entrepreneurship program that I'll let Luke explain when he comes in a few minutes. But these programs are going to be a crucial, integral part to helping the business community grow and helping the economy grow as a whole. The business market moving forward is going to be highly integrated with a lot of these technologies that the younger kids have grown up and spent their whole lives interacting with. And many new technologies that are probably going to be developed by that same generation. As a whole, what we can do now to incubate and nurture the future is to take these kids under our wings and provide them with the best education that we possibly can so that they can push our society to the next level. Enrichment programs are beginning to be the best way that we can tackle the task in the short run. With money constantly being taken from education, giving kids access to real-world experience during their education will have a huge impact on the success of those that come after us. This is the same for general employment as it is for science, arts, and everything else. But what we love to talk about here on this show is business and entrepreneurship. When I was a senior at Holt High School, we were in the process. That was the last year in which that school was going to be the high school. We were moving into what is now called the Taj Mahal. I was the last class to graduate from the old high school, which was kind of cool because my grandpa was the first. So we opened and closed that place. But the business class that I was in with Dan Knekel was charged with the task of starting the new school store. And at the time, we didn't actually have a school store, so we really got to start a business. We got to design the clothing items, price them out, really fine-tune everything that was going to be going into that store, and really take a dive into entrepreneurship. The classes that came after us got to run the store and restock it and come up with new items, but we got to start it, and that was an experience that I wish each class could go through. Fortunately, we have a great business community and a bunch of teachers and educators that have really started to take a big role in developing some cool new programs to get students involved with business. After all, these students are going to be spending more time working than any other single activity, so it's probably wise that we start dedicating some resources towards getting them ready for that side of life as well. Can you imagine the amount of advancement and growth you would see in our economy if we could start to get more kids involved with business at an early age, whether that be starting businesses in school or just getting involved on a career path that's going to allow them to see real growth down the line? Imagine how strong test scores and overall engagement in the classroom would be if these students were able to apply what is going on in that classroom with the real world and see how it is both relevant and how they interact with each other. I'm currently putting together a few internship programs myself for my company, but I want to make sure that these internships have value. See, too often internships are paper-running, coffee-getting free labor, but we need to do better. This is our opportunity to help be that buffer for these students as they get ready for what's to come. After today's show, I urge you to get involved with youth business engagement, whether that be taking a look at the existing internship programs at your company and finding ways to make them more beneficial to the student, or whether you start providing time, money, or resources to programs that are already set up to help youth entrepreneurship. Again, this show is only going to be as beneficial as the people who interact with it, so please feel free to engage with us and join in the discussion. As I mentioned last week, there's not going to be much of a dialogue if I'm the only one talking. The easiest ways to get involved with the show will be through our social media sites, Facebook, /Business Plan Radio, on Twitter @BizPlanRadio. And our podcasts are going to be posted, as I mentioned before, to the Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter's YouTube page, as well as to LCC's SoundCloud. You can also email the show at businessplanradio@gmail.com. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, I will have Luke Schraben on with us to let us know what is going on with the kids these days and fill us in on what is the 5 minutes tops competition. This is the Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on your community station, 89.7 LCC Radio.
You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
All right, welcome back. We are in segment 2 of this week's episode of The Business Plan, and I'm extremely happy to have a friend of mine in, not just someone who can shine some light on some resources, but someone who's an actual friend of mine. So for me, it's a special show. I have Luke Schraben with us. He is the career coordinator with an organization called Eaton Risa. I'm going to bring him on here in a second, and he can kind of explain what all that is and what that entails. But Luke himself, he is a fellow Bronco of mine. I went to school at Western for 2 years prior to going to Michigan State, and I love my Michigan State degree and my state athletics, but I'm going to tell you right now, Western was the best time I've ever had in my entire life. Kalamazoo is a great city. Western is an awesome school. And if you have never had a chance to go over there, I highly suggest you do so. They have an awesome business school over there, too, the Hayworth College of Business, which obviously being on the west side of the state is tied into a furniture company. If you're in the state of Michigan, that makes complete sense. If you're not, Grand Rapids is actually one of the world's leading cities in terms of furniture. They were in the past. I don't know if they still are towards the top of that list, especially with IKEA kind of taking over the world. But we actually, my parents actually own a chair that was designed by a Grand Rapids artist who designed furniture, and that chair was actually in not the specific chair, but the exact same model was one that Gerald R. Ford actually had in the White House. He himself is from Grand Rapids, so he obviously had that affinity for the Grand Rapids furniture scene, and was able to bring in one of those made out of Mercedes-Benz leather and horsehair. Pretty interesting combo, but the chair itself is pretty sweet. So all that being said, I have Luke Schraben on with us today. Luke, thank you for coming onto the program and giving us a little bit of time. Why don't you start just kind of by letting everyone know who you are and kind of what you do and what brought you to that.
Sure. Well, hello. Thanks for having me, first of all, and thanks for putting together a show that kind of has this focus. I think anytime you can spread awareness and bring like-minded individuals together to talk about entrepreneurship and startup, it kind of cultivates and helps grow some of that motivation and spark that usually gets a lot of those projects started. So I am a career development coordinator with Eaton RESA, and so what Eaton RESA is RESA stands for Regional Education Service Agency, and each county has an ISD, might be the more commonly used term, and Eaton RESA was formerly an ISD. They now are a RESA, and that's because they provide some services to support the local school districts. So we operate within Eaton County and provide career technical education, which is a fancy word for the Career Center, and we provide preparation for our students and train them beyond your traditional Michigan merit curriculum, so to speak. And then also special education is another big piece that Eaton RESA does, as well as other services that would support the local community and schools.
Solid. Well, I feel like in business, a lot of times people are extremely competitive, right? And I don't know if it's like this in every industry, but having worked with auto industry people in the past, and also working in a fairly competitive field, which is media production, I feel like a lot of companies don't really want to work together. You saying that earlier, that kind of bringing people together or coming together for entrepreneurship was something that you enjoyed, and so how difficult is that to do, really, with some of these companies?
It's been easier than you would imagine, to be totally honest. We've got a ton of great business leaders, great companies here in the Mid-Michigan area, as well as teachers on the educational side that help make this thing really go. So at Eaton RESA, we specialize in our Career Center. We kind of have a unique setup. We are housed out of Lansing Community College. West Campus is where most of our programs are. We do have programs at the downtown Lansing Community College campus as well. And if we don't have classes at those campuses, then we're out in local businesses. So we actually have relationships with AIS for a heavy machinery equipment program for our students. We've got a relationship with Farm Bureau Insurance, where we do an insurance risk management program. It's in its 5th year. And the students will actually go from their local schools in Eaton County. They go to their school in the morning, catch a bus, and then we bus them to Farm Bureau Insurance, where they take a 2-hour course right there on site. We have a relationship like that brand new this year with Davenport University, where if you're a student in Eaton County, you catch a bus, and we would bus you to Davenport University, and they're actually taking introductory to marketing, introductory to business management, and intro to business courses as high school students, 12 college credits while in high school. So we've been well received on both relationships that has to do with education, working with kids, and now this entrepreneurship piece that's pretty new and budding. When we reach out to people and ask for support or help, it's the ball moves pretty quick, and the support's there. It's usually how do you design it and make it work with logistics, with students from their local schools coming to a career center, and how does that fit in the time of their day and the challenges you get with some of those kind of things. But really, even across kind of from the other career centers, Capillary Career Center in Ingham County and the Clinton RISA, we've worked together over the last 2 years since I've been with Eaton RISA. I've been there now for 2 years. The collaboration has been, I think, better than it's ever been, and we've done some really cool collective work to kind of share some projects and make them bigger than they could be on their own, including this year's youth entrepreneurship stuff that we'll talk about. Capillary Career Center is going to be doing their own pitch competition that'll feed into a regional event, and then in Clinton County, DeWitt High School is going to be doing one as well. So we've got some representation from kind of all 3 counties together in an effort here to help. So it's been pretty. The support is overwhelming. It's a matter of getting people to sit down, do, and put pen to paper, and just like anything else, to start a process versus just talk about a process.
To me, vocational schools are something that I think are going to have a much more integrated role moving forward in our education system. How have you said that you do the Career Center, which is kind of the more vocational aspect of your community schools. Have you noticed yet any type of spikes in terms of people who are going that route more so, students who are really kind of trying to get some of that real world experience too?
Well, it's different than it's ever been. So the word vocation's kind of almost outdated because that brings up perceptions of the old way of you go to learn a trade and you either go to college or you get a trade. Nowadays with the Career Center and the Career Technical Education, CTE, it's really both. So yes, to answer your question, we've got more students at Eaton RISA Career CTE, our Career Tech Education Center, this year than we've ever had before. So our numbers are higher than ever. But more importantly, the opportunities are better than ever. I work with Eaton RISA because I'm passionate about the projects we work on. If you're a student that come here that goes to one of our programs, we have over 15 different programs, all different flavors. So there is the traditional, we have an auto collision program, an auto tech program, heavy machinery equipment, robotics programs. So we have some of those
more trade stuff.
Trades, welding's one of our most popular programs, and we're in need of welders in the area, and a lot of our students come right out into apprenticeship programs from that. So we have those traditional programs, but then we also have the Business Academy at Davenport, the Insurance Risk Management program at Farm Bureau. We have a new sports medicine program that we do with our health tech programs downtown. We have a Health Tech 1 and 2 where you get your CNA while in high school. And all of these programs, you're getting college credit while in high school. So it's not a vocational or college track like it used to be maybe in the 70s and even into the early 80s. It's really both. I mean, these are opportunities to kind of fast track, get ahead, and something you had mentioned earlier that I'm passionate about is learning through doing. Applying that piece. What are you learning in the classroom to being able to apply it to a project, whatever that may be. It looks a little different for each program, but yeah, the numbers are better than ever. I'd like to see it continue to grow in that direction. Personally, just from my experience, that's when I learned best, was when I was in college studying business and starting my own business. That's when I learned and retained the most information.
Right. Yeah, and as a business owner, if I'm going to hire someone, I would look more at what they've done than where they went to school. And so obviously being able to, maybe it's more of a skill, like you're actually learning some skills at these, quote unquote vocational style setups. Whereas, more on the school side, it's more of like theory based and things along those lines. But really where you get your hands dirty, anytime you can incorporate or invoke multiple senses, obviously you're going to just retain that so much better. And so being able to do that. My sister, she went out to in Ingham County out there in Mason, and she was learning all these, media stuff, which is, right up my alley. But, I had gone to college for marketing, and I didn't have any tangible skills when I graduated. It was, I could tell you every business term and what the definition was, but how to apply it, I didn't really have that. And so, I wish that I would have taken more advantage of those types of programs when I was in high school. So you're saying that you obviously have some of those, kind of more vocational driven ones, the tech, like doing welding and things along those lines. But from a business standpoint. Why don't you kind of touch on some of the different business programs that are going on? We're gonna, in the next segment, we'll talk more so about the 5-minute tops, but just from RISA in general, some of the different business programs that they have for people.
Sure. From the RISA in general side of things, from Eaton RISA, we have a business academy with Davenport University in its first year. Very exciting program there, where students will go to Davenport in the morning. It's an AM program, so it runs from 7:20 to 9:20 in the morning, and they take a kind of it's an introduction to college course, how to be successful, how to study, how to organize yourself class in coordination with Intro to Business. Second semester, they take Intro to Business Management and Business Marketing, and those are Davenport 100 level classes that you take as a college student. They're taking them as juniors and seniors in high school, so they'll get 12 college credits for that program, 1-year program, 12 credits, no money out of their pocket, and so that's the classroom piece of that. So aligning with that, kind of where the career tech ed belief comes in as well, is we have what are called CTSOs, which these are career technical student organizations. And so you might have heard these things around. They've really grown in the last probably 10 years, because we didn't have them as much when I was in high school, just when I graduated in 2002. So for the business one, we're a participating program, pretty commonly known out there, called BPA, which is Business Professionals of America. There's also another one out there called DECA, which is a marketing organization. Within Eaton RISA, we also do Skills USA, which is more for our trades programs, and HOSA, which is a program for our health tech programs. These are opportunities for students to go and compete in various types of challenges against other students. Usually it's a field trip type thing where you go to another college atmosphere, whether that's maybe sometimes you go to Grand Rapids and you go to Davenport University, you might go to the Amway Grand Ole Hotel type setting, whatever it might be, and compete in your area that you're studying, usually in some type of role play or presentation type thing. So those are kind of some of the cool opportunities they have to do things within their classes or projects that build upon that curriculum, because that curriculum piece, the traditional piece, is very important. You need to still have that. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a marriage of the two. But then being able to take what you're learning and apply it. Right. And that's the piece, I think, where the most retention takes place. That's where soft skills are developed, which is the common thing we hear feedback-wise from our employers, whether it's a manufacturing employer or it's an insurance company or it's somebody in the health industry. Is that a lot of times that's the biggest thing they're thirsty for. If you can give us some students that have some prior knowledge of the trades or business or health, but they genuinely are motivated and want to come to work every day, and they have some soft skills and communication ability, and they're good employees, we can mold them and work with that. Right. So that's the big piece we get a lot of feedback on, is soft skill development. So whether it's the 5-minute tops program we talk about, or it's one of these CTSO programs, anything that we build on that scales around our programs are geared towards getting the students to develop some leadership skills, trying new things, and putting themselves out there in a way that'll help them gain confidence and develop professionally. Yeah,
well, to me, it seems like basically what you guys are doing is just teaching people how to survive in the real world. It's a more realistic education, I feel like, because those are things that people are going to have to deal with every single day. Physics, I'm only going to have to deal with when I trip. But those are skills, and those are topics that people are going to have to deal with on a daily basis moving forward. And so, obviously it's important to be able to get that going at a younger age, and to really kind of get people, get their heads wrapped around it, before they really are in a position to where they're dealing with the negative fallout because of it, So why don't you, we didn't really get too much into yourself. So why don't you talk real quick about, about what your background is, and what made you get into business, and because you were a business teacher, right? So what made you get into business and go that route, instead of maybe teaching like English or something?
Sure. Well, from even back to high school, I had a great class in high school that I think, if there's something in your school like that, I encourage people to take advantage of it. If you're a parent of a student, I'd encourage you to reach out to your high school to try to have them have more programming like this, because with nowadays there's less and less opportunity for electives in the high school, so it's harder and harder to have a wide selection for students there. But I had a class they called mentorship, is what it was called. And a great teacher I had over at Holt, Dan Kneckel, ran that class.
Yes, sir.
And so I had Kneckel.
He was my business teacher as well.
Yep. And so I had him for mentorship, and it was basically a self-exploration course. I mean, it was we did a lot of interest inventory assessments and skill assessments, and we had to do presentations and projects on what we want to be when we grow up, kind of thing. So that was my junior year of high school, and I was torn. I did a project on entrepreneur, ironically, and I did a project on a teacher, ironically. So and that was going back to my junior year, and when it came time to make a decision for college, I was torn between business and education. I did a placement. The second semester of that mentorship course was to do a placement. I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher, so I went over to Sycamore Elementary and worked in a 5th grade classroom. What I found is I didn't want to teach elementary, and that wasn't for me. So I figured college, I would study business. And when you're young, you think money's the most important thing, and so I could make more money if I went to business school. So it was Michigan State or Western Michigan for me. And my first job, I've always had jobs. That's just the way I was raised. I had a newspaper route. 12 years old or so, probably the community news, and 5 cents a home I got paid to deliver the community news. And so my brother was my number one worker for me on that project. He didn't have a choice. And then after that it was, hey, we can pay you $15 a game at Michigan State if you come out and hawk waters in the crowd for the Great Lakes gymnastics program. And so one of my friend's moms had the concession stand, and so my job was to go in the ice cold waters, get your water in the stands. And so I did that for 3 years, fell in love with Michigan State football, obviously being in the stadium for all the games and being around that environment as a teenager. And so when it came time to choose college, it was which business school was the right fit for me. And my dad and my mom are entrepreneurs. My dad comes from the advertising arena. He used to work for the Oakland Free Press when I was young, and started kind of an entrepreneurial spirit ever since I've always known Pops. He worked for the Oakland Free Press selling advertising, and started his own publication that they would insert into 300,000 homes in Metro Detroit area called Great Lakes Getaway. And it was something they never had. So he traveled all over northern Michigan to put together a travel and tourism publication that would insert into the Oakland Free Press and mailed to kind of the upper income homes down there. Was wildly successful with that, and but was always gone. And so when I got a little bit older and was getting into a little more trouble, my mom actually started the Community Quarterly magazine locally. This would have been probably 1993 or 4, somewhere in that range. And that's a direct mail publication. You get it in the mailbox today. They've been publishing now for about 20 years, and over 20 years now. And full color glossy stock magazine with the Big B coupons on the cover. Right. Direct mail is about 150,000 now around Lansing and down to Jackson. So he came back and worked with Mom on that, and they grew the magazine and opened up the Battle Creek and Kalamazoo market. So when I was looking at what college to go to, we used to go down to Kalamazoo on a regular basis, and I knew business owners down there because they were friends of my dad's, and it was take your son or daughter to work there. I would ride around on him in his route and see how he operated. And so Kalamazoo was always an area I enjoyed. So they had a great business school. Like a lot of the MAC schools, they have to do they don't have the big name as like Michigan State. Michigan State's business school as a whole, much more reputable and probably better than Western, you'd say. But Western has a few programs that they do top notch. One of those is their integrated supply chain management program, and their sales and business marketing program competes and is regularly, first, second, third in the country at the competition. So I went down to go into the sales and business marketing program at Western Michigan, and because I figured I better specialize within business, and that was the arena I wanted to go in. So went to Western Michigan. While I was there, my friends would come over to get Dad's coupon magazine on a regular basis to get the pizza coupons out. I said, hey, there's an opportunity here, because he would mail demographically to household incomes of $40,000 and above. So, all the suburban areas around campus. Western Michigan sits in downtown Kalamazoo, and so the income level down there was not where Dad would target, and the student housing wasn't his prototypical customer. So I put together a magazine called Campus Coupons Magazine, and 10,000 mailers, so a sliver of what Dad was mailing. But I had to go around and knock on the doors of businesses and cold call and say, hey, I remember putting on slacks and a polo at 19 years old and introducing myself to people and, trying to get them to spend $500,000, $700,000, $1,500 with me. And oh, by the way, can you write me a check for half of that now so I can pay my first ever print and postage bill,
Right.
which is about $10,000. And
Cash flow.
So it was, soft skill development. It was all those type of things. Very heavy on the sales side initially, but then it became, I had to open a bank account. I had to get my own DBA. I had to I'd have to pay for my expenses up front, which was in the printing and postage of the product. If I was going to print 10,000 magazines, there's a cost associated with that. If you're going to direct mail through the postage system, there's a cost directed with that. I had to realize what I'm good at and find people to offset your weaknesses. I hired a graphic designer to put the ads together. I would go out with a sketch pad and sketch the coupon together, and then I'd go meet them at like a coffee shop, and I'd have, here's 5 businesses I talked to today. Here's a sketch of what they want. Make it look nice for me, because I couldn't do that.
Right.
And so that's a big part of being an entrepreneur that I learned is, to surround yourself with the people that do things better than you.
Yeah.
And so published that magazine for about 10 years. Was able to run it through college, beyond college. And some of the things you had mentioned earlier. So that became what I would call, when I talk to my students a lot about, is side gigging. It became a side gig for me. I had grown up around my parents publishing the magazine and could have went in and took that over, but my passion has always been to get my degree, and I wanted to go work for a company, get into upper management. And that's my thought, at least when I was that age. And the magazine, when you talk about what does being an entrepreneur in that bubble of college, I think that was a great piece you hit on initially, is I developed those soft skills. I developed a working resume.
Right.
When it came time to walk around at career fair and introduce myself to employers, I knew what internship I wanted. I walked in there with a game plan. I knew that employer, that internship, inside and out. And I came in there with my magazine, pitched myself. We sat down and had the interview, and I was talking about, the other students I hired and running a sales route and negotiating contracts and paying for printed postage bills and then having money left over as a profit and using that, to roll back into the business for the, to make, the next publication better. And
right.
So my interviews were very comfortable for me because I was talking about real experiences, and they were slam dunks on the employer side because that's what they wanted to hear.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. I mean, I would have been so excited had I had someone come and talk to me like that, having already had that experience. I mean, you just, it's hard to find, especially in younger people. For the most part, millennials and things along those lines they've had it pretty good up until they graduate from college. And, I was one of those ones that I didn't really work through college. And so, for me, it was a matter of, just not having that work ethic that I would have had I been, hitting the streets like you in college, So kudos for that. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about this really cool program that Luke was able to put together at Eaton Risa called the 5 Minute Tops. A really cool competition that we'll talk a little bit about. So stick with us. We'll be back after a quick break, and we'll see you on the flip side.
You're listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter Podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio, and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.
Welcome back to the Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter. We appreciate you sticking around with us and being here to be a part of this program. I really want this to be a program in which a dialogue is created, and a dialogue can't be had with only one person. So as this show starts to go live and as we really start to get this program going, I would love for you in the community to really become involved and engaged with this program. Not just for yourself, but for everybody. Getting your input and hearing your side of your story and hearing your story, is only going to help people out there that are struggling, probably with the same things that you had to struggle with as a business owner, or as an employee of a business. Whether you've worked your way up the corporate ladder to a C-level executive, or whether you started your own business in college like our guest Luke did. Whatever you do, I want you to call in. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your story. So moving forward, I really want people to engage with this program. So again, thank you for being a part of this, and I can't wait to have that conversation with you moving forward. Today, my conversation, though, is with Luke Schrauben. And so, Luke, again, thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure things are extremely busy. I know that you and I have already started working on some of this stuff. You started working on it way before I did. I'm actually doing the video for this 5-minute tops thing that we're going to talk about here now. So why don't we talk about that a little bit? Why don't you kind of set the stage and let people know exactly what it is that we've been kind of teasing with this whole time?
Yep, absolutely. 5-minute tops is a youth entrepreneurship pitch competition, so very much like the show Shark Tank. Timing was right with the show Shark Tank being on TV. It really helps people wrap their mind around what that is. Even the word entrepreneurship, especially for high school students, what the heck is that, right? So, we could say it's a Shark Tank-esque pitch competition where you have a chance to win money, and that resonates with high school students.
Oh yeah, money resonates with everyone.
Absolutely, it doesn't take. So, when with my background after coming from Western that we talked about in the last segment, I went to work in Chicago. I worked as an executive with a national grocery chain there and in retail, and got married a teacher, and was coaching youth basketball out there. And kind of priorities change as you get older, and realized that what motivated me to go into business and try to become an upper level manager was money, and money was the most important thing to me, and having some time available with the family was. So we wanted to come back to where we're from, back to the Lansing area, and start a family. And so I got my master's in education, and which allowed me then to become a teacher. So I taught business classes. And so in that process, I was placed at Grand Ledge High School for my student teaching experience, and then was hired there. Go Comets on that. They took me in. They took in a former Holt Ram and made him a Comet. So I'm torn.
So that's a bold thing to say.
I know. I'm torn because I'm from Holt, and Holt's a special place for me, but Grand Ledge took me in and made me one of theirs as well. So I've had the ability to work with those two communities, which, as I described this project, were kind of the two that spearheaded this as it started to grow. So I was in the business classroom, and I would always do an entrepreneurship unit, because I figured no matter if I was teaching accounting, finance, marketing courses, you need to do how to start a business and learn and apply those things you're learning to a real life situation. I figured the students were going to be all fired up for it. What I found, 30 kids in a class, I'd have 3 or 4 that were fired up and 26 others that thought it was another project. So every year I try to make it better. And so we went to a Shark Tank type piece in class, and the students would pitch to each other, and everybody had Monopoly money, and you would have to spend your Monopoly money, whoever had the most, that would correlate to the winner, so to speak. And so then I was working with the local Grand Ledge Business Alliance, and one of the, they had entrepreneurial spirit was a big thing they wanted to grow in Grand Ledge. This is 3 years ago. They have Grand Ledge Ledges over there. They felt like a lot of their young people would go to Michigan State, leave the area, kind of the brain drain philosophy, and there's no reason these young talented people can't stay here. And furthermore, their passion was stay here in Grand Ledge, start families and such, and they felt the entrepreneurial spirit and a creative culture was the way to do that. So they said, hey, Mr. Schraben, what are you doing with this entrepreneurship stuff in class? And I told them about the project. And they said, what if we threw real money at it? I said, that'd be fantastic. We got a project coming up this spring. We could have the students do it in my class. They'd be required to do their entrepreneurship project. And if they chose to pitch in front of you as judges or sharks for real money, they would win the money right before summer break and have a chance to start their own business. And so we did the first one about 2.5 years ago, and it was what we would consider a big success. We had 15 different students apply on their own to come in on an evening after school and share their ideas for a chance to win $500 at that time. And the last year then would be year 2. We said, hey, we got to grow this thing. And so I was working then with, made the transition from Grand Ledge High School to Eaton Risa and worked with the Career Center. And said, well, let's open it up to the region then. And so we did, so when I went to my students initially, I said, all right, hey, here's the premise, marketing class. Let's market this to the high school. And it was a working project for us. And so through some kind of market research, they found the most important things to the students was you're going to win money, right? So when you see the posters, you see you can win up to, and it's got the money flash for them. And that it only takes 5 minutes. It's not this big, overly long, in-depth academic project where you follow a long list of rules.
Putting together like an entire business plan and stuff like that.
Right. No, it's not that piece. We have classes that do that, certainly. But this is an elective piece on your own where you share a creative idea If you have something you think you can do, and what we're trying to do as educators with it, we're trying to get those kids involved that maybe aren't involved in something else already. You're walking through the hall and you see that opportunity. We had a student in the woodshop class that was making longboards, skateboards, and was selling them online for $500 a piece out of shop class, right? If I made him do a formal business plan, there's no way that kid would register for the competition.
Right.
But he could bring a longboard and tell me about how he's manufacturing this thing on his own, and how if I gave him some money, it would help him buy more trucks or whatever it might be to get it. That's kind of where the whole idea started. So, so they came up with the name. The student said, let's name it 5 minutes tops. There's only 5 minutes to pitch, and you have a chance to win up money. So we did a regional competition. And last year was the first year we did the regional competition. To be a shark on the panel, you had to pay $500 a piece, and that went into a pool of money that we gave out $3,000 to students last spring at LCC West Campus. We hosted it with Eat and Risa. We had a great panel of sponsors that made it happen. Mercantile Bank was a huge role in that with Ben Bakken, was kind of my right-hand person with getting some of the sponsors on board. Traction Media, Clark Hill Legal and Professional Services, Lyman Sheets, AHP, CPA, and Advisors. LEAP, the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, was huge with this. Michigan Business Network, Lansing Community College as a post-secondary representative for us, and then the other career centers as well, Capital Area Career Center and the Clinton RISA. So those are kind of the people that helped get that regional competition off the ground. So now we've kind of grown to the model where we've got these, Grand Ledge's local competition. We call them the local ones now. Grand Ledge has the local competition that's going into its third year. And then Holt jumped on and did their first ever last year and did a 5 minute tops project at the what we call a local level. So this year, after the spring one, it was a wildly successful night. We had standing room only. We gave out $3,000 to students. We had awesome ideas. And you can see a lot of that stuff at www.5minutes, the digit 5 minutes, tops.com, 5minutstops.com.
If you want more information.
And so after the regional competition, I had a lot of people reach out to me. So we've grown some of those local schools. So I'd like to announce this year, November through February, when we'll have their own local competition. Will be Grand Ledge will have one. Holt is having one. Maple Valley will have their first ever. DeWitt High School has their first ever. The Capital Area Career Center is hosting their own. And then a youth organization called Get City, which is a STEM project out of Michigan State's education department. They work with middle school students from the Boys and Girls Club, and they apply their STEM programming to create an invention. And they've had opportunity then. Some of those inventions have been really cool. So we've got 6 local competitions that'll feed into a regional competition. Will be our second ever regional competition, and that'll take place in March at Lansing Community College West Campus. LEAP is a big part of that, helping put that on this year. So it's 5 minutes tops with LEAP. And then we're trying to get all the students that go through these local competitions and pitch a business idea and have a chance to win money. Very low barrier of entry. Just come out and share your idea. Some are more cultivated than others. That's okay. And then when they go through this process, we're trying to get them to go at the end of March. We have what's called the Lansing U Startup Challenge, and everybody can be part of this. There's no turning away of students, and to be part of the Startup Challenge at that point, they have to make a 2-page business. I think the word we were calling it was like a business summary, and it's basically the type of things you would find in a business plan, but it's not a big formal business plan because many of them haven't had the education yet to put something like that together. And quite honestly, it's kind of an outdated piece of technology. I mean, not many people are going to banks with business plans to get funding anymore. It's more of a pitch deck type situation.
Yeah, pitch deck for sure. And I feel like the business plan is more of an internal thing nowadays.
It's still a good learning tool if you have a situation where you have students captivated for a semester or a year in a business course, but that's also not the case that often anymore.
Right.
So
yeah, I kind of view the business plans as like your company's Bible. It's where you can go back and look back to figure out, okay, what was our mission statement again, just to make sure that you're on track, and to kind of make sure that you're set up for for success. So I think the business plan is more of an internal thing than in the past where it was used more as an external to try and generate revenue, or not revenue, but capital, to raise capital. So with the pitch competition though, have you noticed, are these kids coming to you with ideas that they already have been thinking about, or do they use this as okay, there's this cool competition, what's a cool idea?
It's definitely both, and I think it's kind of where you're at with these layers we've got now. At the local competition, you're going to get more of kind of the latter. Hey, there's a chance to win money. You know, what cool thing could I come up with? Which is fine, because they're developing those soft skills. They're coming out and they're presenting in front of a panel of local business owners something they think would be profitable and make an impact in their local community. So we encourage that, you know. But then also we've seen students that, you know, have got their own little business off the ground and running, and they're looking for money to help grow it, which is really exciting. That's one thing, you know, about this competition, is just giving them an outlet. One thing I see, you know, that really bothers me as an educator is I hear a lot of the negative stereotypes about our younger generation, and there's a lot of super talented young people in our local high schools right now that are ready to accomplish, and they're ready to go. And more now than ever, the tools they need are at their fingertips. So all we're doing is simply providing a platform for them to share what they can do. What I've found through doing this is when they go out there and they share these ideas and they get some encouragement and they win a little bit of money in their bank account, their confidence just skyrockets.
Right.
And from there, as we all know, when you're working on something you're passionate about, something that was your idea that you believe in, you're hearing words of encouragement, you're getting some fiscal backing, and people are telling you that you could take this thing to the next level, there's nothing that stops you. And so we've seen a lot of these ideas, even in the course of one school year, where a student might pitch. There's probably somebody right now that's walking around one of these local schools that'll see a poster for the 5-minute tops competition. They'll think of an idea because they want to win some money. They'll come out and share it. They might win a little bit of money. They get entered into the regional competition, pitch for a higher stakes in front of more judges, and the idea continues to grow because now they get that pressure of having to present again. They go into the LEAP Youth Startup Challenge, and they have a situation where they kind of decorate a table at that point and display their business, and judges come around and they have to do a kind of a 30-second commercial, and they win a little bit of more money, and they roll into summer break with maybe, you know, $1,000 or more in the bank, and contacts with local business owners that can help them, and a situation where they can launch their business over the summer. And kind of alluding to what you were talking about when I talk with these students, there's not a better time for you to do that. What's the opportunity cost for you of that? You know, usually it's a retail position at the mall, or, you know, minimum wage type job, or, you know, so, and nothing against that because you need to get work experience. But if you can also, it doesn't take you to make that many coupon sales, or to sell that many videos in digital production, or to make that many cupcakes for Brittany Belding's Hooray Cupcakes business that she won last year, or to sell that many chickens from our Charlotte student who won the regional competition with a farming idea, for you to make more money than you would, you know, working at McDonald's or another place. So and to learn a little more in the process of how to handle money and how to approach people and how to process inventory and how to order things, and all the stuff that are transferable skills into whatever they go into. And it gets them thinking entrepreneurially, which whether or not they end up opening a business and doing that full time, they may continue to side gig throughout their life, which is more money that they'll use in the local economy. And more importantly, they might approach those jobs with better soft skill development, which is what we hear from our advisory panels and our business owners, is that's what we need. And they might look at those jobs a little more of a frame of an entrepreneurial spirit, which you know, I think most businesses would that's what they're after, is employees that approach it as their business. And that's where the best work, I think, takes place, in my personal belief. So it's been a project that was born out of passion. It's one I think is important. But really the students that have participated in the event are the ones that have taken it to the next level. Because at any point, it was kind of always, all right, let's do this and see how it goes.
Right.
We weren't going to sit around and just talk about it. Let's put it out there. There's some things that'll go well, and there's some things that won't, you know, and we'll learn from it. Just, you know, but if there's not interest and the students didn't want to do it, we would stop. But at each stage right now, as I've started to grow this thing, the businesses have been there in support of the sponsors, like I said, put up money and time, but the students are applying, you know, like crazy and coming up with great ideas, and we're launching businesses out of it with young people. So, you know, why the heck wouldn't we grow it? Right. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's doing everything and more that we would hope it would do. So, and I couldn't have done it on my own. Again, it's, you know, really the effort from a lot of great teachers in the area, especially, you know, many of which are in, you know, business departments at their local high schools. Nancy Meredith at Holt's done a fantastic job over there with her project. I mentioned Dan Kneckler earlier from Holt. There's a teacher in Maple Valley, that's doing a marketing program. He's got students that are putting together stuff and selling it at the Maple Valley Syrup Festival. They're doing awesome stuff in Maple Valley, and Jason Dowling has headed up that project. There's Kelly Williams in DeWitt, who's, you know, she's runs a school store, a business out of the school. She's also got she does a T-shirt design business and is a very innovative teacher. And then Grand Ledge, Marcy Laudick and the department over there and local business owners there. Jerry Norris is a big part of that project, and they have even now started a youth incubator in Grand Ledge, which is kind of the next tier of where this stuff could go.
Right. Well, perfect. Well, unfortunately, we only have an hour. I mean, I could talk with you for hours, multiple hour segments about this. It's something that's very important, and unfortunately, we didn't get enough time to really get too in depth and really touch on a lot of these different topics. So we'd love to have you back at some point as we get a little bit closer to this event and really kind of fill people in a little bit more as we lead up to it. So again, Luke, thank you for coming in. We really appreciate having you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And again, you have been listening to The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter on 89.7 LCC's WLNZ Lansing.
This has been The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter Podcast. Like us on Facebook at Business Plan Radio and follow us on Twitter at BizPlan Radio. That's B-I-Z Plan Radio. You can view our latest content on our Business Plan Radio YouTube channel. The Business Plan with Ryan Carpenter airs Monday nights at 7 on your community station, 89.7 in mid-Michigan, or online at lccradio.org.